Let's give it a second. Hey, we're doing it live, so the wonders of modern technology.
I just love that you do the same thing I do. You just talk to the pop-up pucks. Yes, I want to do this now.
Yes, you listen to me now. And
I am
we're
your master.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special edition of the Lucha Central Weekly Podcast. This is Miranda Morales, and I'm being joined by Dusty Murphy and Brendan Barr. We are doing a special wrap-up of Expo Lucha Virtual 2020. And yes, we are talking everything that happened today during the Expo Lucha Virtual session. Now, this came about, well, because the world's on fire. Not literally, but it may feel like that. Unfortunately, Expo Lucha 2020 that was scheduled for Philadelphia is postponed until 2021. But the great creators behind Expo Lucha decided to do something different this year and have a virtual Expo for all of us amazing Lucha fans to participate in. And well, that's what we did today. Myself, Brendan Barr, and Dusty Murphy. Well, we all followed along throughout the day, and now we're going to be talking about all of the big things that happened, the special announcements, reviewing the matches that were shown, and more. So, gentlemen, welcome. We are doing this on video as well. We hit a whole new level on the Lucha Central Weekly Podcast. Tell me overall what your thoughts were on today's event.
I really enjoyed it. Like, there was so much going on, and even the stuff that I wasn't sure I'd be as interested in, I was really interested in. Like, there wasn't anything that wasn't amazing.
Yeah, it was a really good pace. As I mentioned in the previous podcast we did, I was curious how they were going to handle the contests. And in order to keep the pace going well, they just did them with these as nice little bumpers in between segments.
Yeah.
They announced the winners. I mean, the only tiny feedback I could have given would have been to have maybe a little more interaction on as to why who the judges were and how they decided to pick it. But other than that, it was a good flow. Like, I saw it, I got to see the cool costume and the cool toys, and congratulations to Pentagon Jr. for being such a popular choice for both of those.
Yes.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of Pentagon today, a lot of Ray Phoenix today. We actually heard a lot of the same people today too. Lots of Vampiro and lots of Conan featured today as well. So if you are, and who would have known? Who would have known that would have been such a predominant theme of today?
Yeah.
But there was a lot of great luchadors featured throughout matches, throughout some of the merchandise. We'll talk about that a little bit later too. Some of the cool licensing deals that have been made, the figures that are going to be released soon, and a lot of the topics that were talked about today, especially during the Masks, Mats, and Mayhem show with special guest Conan. Really, really great insight and interesting topics that were covered. So let's get into it. The show or the expo started with kind of a little historical roundup, some time to talk with the two, big head honchos of this, also part of Mass Republic, of course, Ruben Zamora and Kevin Kleinrock, really being able to talk about the history of Expo Lucha and, why they decided to put it into a virtual audience this year. And I really loved Ruben's story too about, his relationship with Lucha Libre and why he really wanted to put together Expo Lucha for future fans. And, why it's important to him. So what was your thoughts as far as kind of that setting the tone for the day?
I thought it was excellent. I thought the passion that you could see in both Ruben and Kevin's, like in the interview and different things they had to say was like their excitement was palpable and it made me excited. Like, like it just made it feel so special and to be in a part of a community, like it made you feel like part of the whole thing, even though you're at home on the couch, like you felt like you were part of it. And I loved that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the things that is rarer these days is having Kevin and Ruben in the same room, and
Yeah.
and having that's the reminder of that energy. That's one of the things that made both of the previous Expo Luchas very special. Is with both of them there and that passion driving it, you had so much of that energy just filling the room. It was hard. It's very infectious. Even when Kevin was clearly exhausted, he still that flowed through the room whenever it was around. So having that really, for those of us who've been to the Mass Republic version of Expo Lucha before, that really set a dynamic tone as well. So, yeah.
Yes. And how rude of me to not mention, how we were able to watch this. This was, I know, I'm so rude. Gosh, who do I think I am? So Expo Lucha, the recording is also still available for you to watch. So if you didn't get to watch throughout the day, you can find it on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. So I watched it on Facebook throughout the day. What was the streaming platform that you guys used?
I was on YouTube.
Yeah, I did YouTube as well. I have a Roku TV, and so we just popped it on the YouTube app and streamed the whole thing. It was awesome. Right on the big screen in the living room. I loved it.
Yeah. Really smooth transitions and flow of the day as far as the technology too. So big kudos, because that can be very tricky.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask Dusty and Miranda both, because you both had slightly different experiences. I was on the PC watching it on YouTube, and we had the live chat going, which was its own little thing. And that really added to a lot of the excitement. Did you guys have a similar experience on the platforms you were on?
I could see it, but I couldn't participate in it from my TV. So occasionally I'd turn it on when when it wasn't during the matches, I'd turn it on, but it was hard to keep up with both, like on the TV. But yeah, it was available to me.
It was definitely hard to keep up with both.
It was, yeah. I was watching on YouTube on my phone, so I was actually able to follow along with some of the comments that were listed on there. And I mean, Lucha Central, they were actually very involved in the conversation as well. I even saw, I think the Pro Wrestling Eve YouTube page or YouTube account had saw that this was happening and kind of came in late in the game. So even that for me as a wrestling fan was very cool to see UK promotion like Pro Wrestling Eve jump on and say, hey, I didn't know this was happening, or this is really cool.
Yeah. They came in and they were afraid that they had missed the whole show, and we Lucha Central, who based on their typing, I have a pretty good idea who was controlling at the wheels, but Lucha Central assured them that no, you're not late. This is just a main event match that we are featuring on the show. So good time.
Yes. Correct. So into the very first match of the day, it was a 4-way match. You had Rey Horas, Flamita, TJP, and Juventud Guerrero. I'm going to let you guys start off with this because I definitely have my own thoughts on it, but I want to get your guys' thoughts first to see if we're all, because we all look and approach these matches in different ways. So this, I think, we will see this throughout our wrap up and review of what things we noticed throughout the match. But really, too, honestly, it was one of my favorite matches of the entire day because the action was in the ring for the most part, whereas a lot of the other matches we talked about was all over the place. But anyways, Dusty, go ahead. What are your thoughts?
I really enjoyed the match. I thought it was funny how Hoovy immediately got on the microphone, started to put himself over. That entertained me. That's the Hoovy I know.
That's true. Not the last or the third time continuously throughout that. And these were all matches, I believe, from last year's Expo Lucha, correct? Yes.
It looks like it was mostly last year, yeah.
Yeah. So these were things that, though, the lucky people who attended last year that were able to see, but ones as fans, and all over haven't been able to see. So these are, over a year ago, but, and a lot has changed in the wrestling landscape since then. But it's also good to know some things never change with Juventud Guerrero.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's good or bad to know, but
sure. But anyway,
it's comforting at least.
Right? Some things.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
I also really enjoyed how Vampiro couldn't decide whether he liked Juventud or not through the whole match based on what he was doing. He loved him at the beginning, but then he didn't want any Juve juice. He didn't like that.
No, but they're friends. That's why.
Yeah.
I think that Vampiro's philosophy is if he likes you, he'll give you the rub, but not in the way that you think a rub looks like. It's gonna be more like I'll insult you.
It's more like that rub that they twisted your arm in first grade.
Yes, yeah.
The rug burn.
The carpet burn. I hated that thing.
Yes. Brendan, what were some of your thoughts on this 4-way match?
Well, as an attendee, this was a huge nostalgia hit for me. So I had a very different filter. Similar thing. I remember reacting to Juve when it was there, like, oh well, that's a typical Juve thing. I guess we're getting Juve as The Rock today. That's cool. But it was the third chance I'd ever gotten, and I've gotten many more since then, to see Rey Horus live, and I cannot stress how much I'm excited to see the future he's got in this business.
He was so impressive in this match. Like,
yeah.
I mean, like, their physics says there's a certain amount of time you can hang in the air, but somehow he hangs just a little longer. Like they even mentioned that in the commentary. Look at his hang time, because he's got the manipulations down to get it done, and it's crazy. Like, he is so impressive to see, and it's beyond human what you get to see. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. Yeah.
I think each wrestler in this match got an opportunity to shine. I think early on it was a little bit more with Flamita. I think he got to showcase his skill set and his high flying ability at first, and then it kind of evolved into TJP. And one thing that's always very apparent with him, but it's very unique in a lucha setting too, is just his submission maneuvers and kind of the way that he's and holding multiple submission maneuvers at once. And I really loved that sequence where he had the toe hold on Rey Horus while he was fighting Juve. And then he did the Northern Lights suplex on Juve while he still had the toe hold on Rey. So
that was impressive.
Yeah, but also commentary played up a good role.
Yeah, they did. They mentioned it. Yeah.
That it's great for TJP. He's great at that. But in a 4-way, that doesn't always lend itself to be a benefit, because you're actually then taking just time away from the other competitors in the ring, and you're leaving yourself vulnerable. So I thought that was a really good analysis as well. But of course, Juve, with the win with the Juve driver, I mean, again, as some things change, some things stay the same. And well, I'm sure we'll talk more about Vampiro's commentary throughout the day, but he did pinpoint it. He called it out exactly as he knew it, because of, how long he's seen Juve in the business. And so in some ways, he was almost like spoiling the story a little bit, but I think it was just more of his analysis of knowing exactly how Juventud Guerrero works, and I think that played well. But overall, this was, to me, actually one of my favorite matches, if not kind of my favorite match of the day, because it really focused on the lucha libre style inside of the ring. Of course, there was stuff that, in the ring.
Yeah, which I think is an important distinction, because as we move on, you'll see that they do other things. But as Kevin and Ruben both mentioned, they want, whenever they're putting a show together, they still want to show things that you don't normally see. So they had to make sure we had something that covered that traditional in-ring style, and this is a great example of it. and then later we will get more of the explodey stuff. I don't know how you want to.
Yes. The matches later on in the show, it just escalates though. I think that's what it is. It gets crazier and crazier and crazier throughout the day.
Yeah. They built a good pace on that. I feel like Kevin and Ruben put these matches together like a card where you start out and you build up, and then there was a break in the middle, and then you build up again. Yeah.
So next I want to jump a little bit into, and again, we talk about the pacing. I think they did a really good job of kind of stacking a, lucha libre match with, kind of a newer segment or just a scene or not even moment, but just something in between that kind of breaks up all of the wrestling, but also release some new and exciting information about some, different projects and things that are happening with Lucha Central and Mass Republic and all of that. So right after this match, we got Lucha Libre licensing.
Yeah,
that was cool.
From Mass Republic and LuchaCentral.com provided some information on some new products that are going to be released, some that have already been released, some plans in the works for the future. So I wanted to see kind of what were some of your favorite things that Kevin brought up as far as new licensing or new things coming out. Brendan, I'll have you go first.
Well, I was excited to see the more info on the cookbook. I mean, behind the scenes, I've been hearing about the cookbook for a little while, and seeing the cover on a live stream and hearing them talk about recipes and all of that got me really excited. And I did make a note because they mentioned there were lots of Puerto Rican recipes, and I was like,
we're gonna have some good. He mentioned Selena and Papo right away. So essentially, this is like gonna be a mini Puerto Rican cookbook. But I'm gonna buy it then.
I gotta have it too. It looks so good.
Yeah,
I'm excited to try. I love cookbooks anyway. Like I'm the one that cooks in my family, so I'm always looking for a new cookbook with something to try. Yeah, that's
going to be a lot of fun. And the fact that he mentioned it's going to have bios and stories on top of the recipes. So it's really too, a book where you're going to learn not only about recipes, but about the people behind the recipes. They're going to be sharing stories, which is also a big thing, I think, in cooking and sharing, just more feeling connected with what you're making. So
it's that family culture again. We always talk about this is one of the things that makes Lucha special, and having that family culture in every element is just another way of doing it. I love it.
Yeah,
that's part of it.
Dusty, what were some of the things that caught your eye during this segment as far as new products or new releases coming out?
I was really excited about the socks. I really like the socks. I love socks that are fun. I've got several. And so I was really excited about the socks. The new shirts also, he mentioned that Taya was getting a shirt at Hot Topic soon on the website. So I'm excited about that. I've still got my Taya, Padros Del Mal shirt. And so I wear it often, and I could always use a new one to add to the arsenal.
Yeah. Speaking of Hot Topic, Kevin did mention that there are hopefully plans for a lot of these products to be at physical Hot Topic stores.
In malls.
Yes, in malls in 2021. So that's going to be fantastic because we've already seen how Hot Topic has played a role in, products for AEW and the Young Bucks and even WWE and the physical stores. To have that Lucha presence at physical Hot Topic stores is going to be amazing. And Kevin also mentioned that they are working on a shoe line with HotTopic.com, including chanclas.
Yes.
So that was my big thing. The
I'm so excited. Yes.
The slides. I'm going to zero in to the chanclas. Lucha Libre chanclas. I'm all about that.
Yeah. It gives them that extra zing when you have to use the weapon. La chancla!
That is that. We all know that is That's the original foreign
that's-
object.
That's
Yes,
not
it's
a
the most
weapon that I'm
deadly
allowed
weapon.
to use. I'm only allowed to run in fear from it, so I am not looking forward to this.
Yeah, no, really. Yeah, the socks, the expansion of products on HotTopic.com, the cookbook, the trading cards too. That's
Yeah,
gonna
the
be
trading cards looked amazing.
that's just a classic. I think as every
Oh.
anyone interested in anything sports or wrestling related, having a good set of trading cards is just like warms my heart.
With a very kind of prize and element to it. There's rare cards.
every pack. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a contest to win merchandise too.
Yeah, an autographed mask and stuff. Yeah.
Crazy.
Super
exciting.
Yeah.
And lucha-masks.com is getting new Pentagon and Phoenix masks today.
Oh, they're up.
The Expo.
They're up.
Yeah.
They're up. Yeah.
I haven't even looked yet. Yeah.
As soon as I saw that announcement, I went and looked, and they're up.
Yeah, the Phoenix with the flames, it was so cool. Oh, loved it.
Go ahead.
There was one other thing that I as we're talking, I'm remembering that really enjoyed in this segment, which was they were talking about the progression of merch that's happened, and he told the story about Psychosis being one of the earliest people in Masked Republic, and how having that Psychosis shirt available at Hot Topic was kind of a big deal, and I really enjoyed that story.
Yeah, that was nice. Kind of showed the history of the company there a little bit and give us an inside peek.
Yeah.
Really good. And finally, I mean, and these are all out of order. He talked about these in different orders. So we popcorn around. But so you're just going to have to watch the whole thing, because there's lots of other things too that we haven't talked about that you'll definitely want to check it out for. But luchacentral.com/shop has a Phoenix jersey and matching shorts available as well. So not everything is available just on Hot Topic. Of course, Masked Republic, lucha-masks.com, and luchacentral.com/shop. That exclusive jersey and short combination of Phoenix, that too just looked really cool.
They look really great. Yeah.
So make sure if you guys are interested. I mean, those were just some of the tidbits from that particular segment. So you got to watch the whole thing.
I have one more thing I want to call Dusty out on. I'm sorry. You asked for stuff we're excited about, and they dropped the names of 2 new people that are being sponsored by Masked Republic, and one of them is Ultimo Dragon. And anybody who listens to this show, see, that's the.
I had my suspicion because he was on the 2020 calendar, and so I was like, well, if he's on the calendar, he's at least friendly with them. So I kind of thought it might be coming. But in a later segment, they talk more about Ultimo Dragon, and it gets even more exciting.
It's true.
Yeah.
I was surprised that you chose anything else over the fact that Ultimo Dragon was there. So I wanted to just.
Yeah, no. Yeah, there was just so much going on that it was hard to pick. But that was exciting.
All right, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, very good points again.
I was going to mention it later in the later segment. It comes up in. I don't want to spoil it.
Cover everything on that topic. Yeah, so absolutely.
There's still more. Yeah.
There's still more. We just don't got time for it. We got so much more to cover for all of you, and that's why also this was like a 5-hour day. You just got.
And we don't need to do a 5-hour follow-up.
No, exactly. That's why it's a wrap-up.
Unfortunately, yeah.
So next up, we had our next match, the Lucha Brothers, Pentagon and Rey Fenix, with Conan versus Jack Evans and Teddy Hart with Selena De La Renta. This was really the first match that we saw with the madness going outside of the ring, and it definitely felt like a traditional lucha libre match in that sense, where they were just going for it. Dusty, we'll start with you first. What were you thinking about this match? How what was your sense of this match?
I was surprised how much of it occurred in the aisles and in the bleachers, and watching on the hard cam, it it was kind of hard to tell what was going on at times. But I would imagine for fans there, it must have been amazing, like to see the action in ring. But the other thing was, like, when you hear Lucha Bros versus Jack Evans, Teddy Hart, this is exactly what you are expecting when you watch this match. Like, what you think you're going to see, that's what you get. Like, they deliver on that one.
Yep.
And I love that. I mean, like, they were at their most entertaining, especially Teddy Hart. Like, this was the best he did in the show for me. And yeah, it gets a little weird.
It gets weird. Brendan, again, since you were there, can you kind of share your thoughts as far as that different lens you see this from being there to now seeing it a year later, on the screen?
Well, for starters, this is the first time I ever saw that moonsault that Evans did out of the stand. I was on the wrong side of the ring to ever have seen that.
Bummer.
So that were already, I appreciated that. One of the reasons I've been hungry to see a lot of these matches is those of you who watched already know there's more of this stand stuff going on, and I'll have more stories about that kind of stuff. But so that was exciting in that respect there. But I had a week. The weekend, over the course of that weekend, I had many very different encounters with Jack Evans, and this was pretty early in the weekend, so I wasn't aware. I wanted to see the Lucha Bros when I was watching stuff, and then as the weekend moved on, I became more about seeing other people, and Jack Evans was one of those big ones. So it was interesting to go back and watch this mask with that filter, that instead of like looking for the Zero Miedo spots or whatever, I can watch what Jack's doing. I can even watch what Teddy Hart's doing, which is now a rare thing. So
yeah. Yes, yeah.
Especially right now.
Yeah, this match too. I mean, with the Lucha Brothers really being a pillar of the entire weekend. I mean, they were featured in multiple matches. This is a very classic Lucha Brothers match as far as the pacing, the moveset, even the finisher. Classic. So of course the Lucha Brothers pick up the win. But I agree with you. Jack Evans is someone too that throughout the day today, we're seeing a lot of his work throughout the weekend. And the commentary plays up, kind of the variety of skill set he had, his background in breakdancing, the work he's done in Mexico, his work ethic. At one point, I believe Vampiro had mentioned that he had worked 300 plus days throughout a whole year. So the fact that he's just a machine in that sense, you can really just see how easily and how he flows in the ring, and also his height with that too. He's really one of those original luchadors, wrestlers who, for being so tall, didn't imagine that he could, move so well. But he does. And, now we see him a little bit more in AEW, and we've seen him more on TV, but for a while we didn't. And this match just highlights exactly why Jack Evans should have more airtime.
Yeah. And then I wanted to put those 300 plus days that they talk about him doing. One of the many interactions I had with him is I mentioned that I grew up in a town not very far from where he grew up. And he remembered, he's like, oh, I did like 2 matches there in those days. And he's like, there were like 12 people there, but one of the coolest dives I've ever done in my life is off of the basketball hoop there. And so like those days he's performing, a lot of those times where he's performing in front of really small crowds, but he still remembers every single show. And I mean, knowing a little bit about his habits, that's very impressive to me. But
long term versus short term.
Yeah, I mean, there's we don't know what side effect actually, so.
But yeah, so I just wanted to put that over. That was one of the many things like I said, over the course of the weekend, that just me being around him, either seeing him perform or talking to luchadors, including him, that really shaped my impression of him.
Up next, we had part 1 of the Masks, Mats, and Mayhem interview with Conan. Of course, Masks, Mats, and Mayhem show is part of the Lucha Central podcast network. You can catch them on luchacentral.com. Every week, they focus on the world of Lucha Underground. They review it, they analyze it, they provide amazing insight as to how that show has influenced Lucha Libre even now. The characters that we've seen on that show, what they're doing now, the behind the scenes, which I think Conan really went into a deep dive on, and I thought this was really fascinating. This was probably one of my favorite parts of the day outside of the matches. Like, I felt like I've learned so much with that deep dive history and the behind the scenes of what was going on, Conan's perspective, and kind of his evolution as to his involvement in the show, and how he thought he was going to be brought in and how it turned out. So we'll get into that in just a second. But Brendan, I mean, what were some of the big takeaways you had from this episode of Masks, Mats, and Mayhem?
Oh man, like to a lot of what you were saying, you had the great storytelling, you had you had all the stuff about why he was there, why he ultimately left. That was actually, I think, my biggest takeaway from the first half, is just how much more respect. Like, I already respected the guy, but hearing that he had the awareness in the situation he was in, maybe that's hindsight now, but he's and he's not blaming other people for his leaving. He's like, no, I was a hothead, and I just basically kept saying fuck you, so they were paying me, so why the hell should they pay me to do that? And I appreciated that part of the story, that he had that no filter whatsoever. Like, no, the fuck up in this one was me. I'm not even going to pretend. And along with like all of the other shots that he took, he was willing to take shots with himself, and that really impressed me.
Yeah. What about you, Dusty? What were some of the big takeaways you had from this episode?
My favorite was how they had him for the mouthpiece for Ricochet, and Ricochet was like upset that they wouldn't let him talk, but they're like, bro, you're from Kentucky, your character's from Mexico, it won't work. And then he's like, later they let him say 2 or 3 words one time after everybody forgot he was from Mexico. And I was like,
that was interesting too.
But I thought that was really cool and interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, they were saying, Conan mentioned, like, they were very selective about who they let speak during that first season. Like, not a lot of the characters got to say anything. And I think in some ways that was meant to protect some characters, aka Prince Puma. But in other ways, it seemed like they just almost didn't trust some people. They didn't want to give them that ability to talk. And I think this, for me, overall, on is you're balancing doing a pro wrestling show, but with a cinematic Hollywood flair, with like production and all of that. So, I think that was one of the things that a lot of fans loved, but it also seemed like that was one of the biggest challenges behind the scenes, is that it wasn't treated like a wrestling promotion or a wrestling show. It was treated as a TV show. And not really understanding the dynamics and cultures of wrestling and lucha libre, that really, made it really hard for people to work in and to kind of be able to have any creative freedom. And so that to me was very interesting, because it seems like that was one of the best elements of it, how it was presented on TV, but behind the scenes, it actually seemed like more of a pain than it was worth.
Yeah, that was kind of surprising to me. And at the time, like, of course, before anybody knew, they talked to everybody that was involved in the first season was like, yeah, we love it, we're glad to be a part of it. And then there was the hiatus, but the hiatus between season 1 and season 2 wasn't so bad. And I feel like there were maybe even more fans in season 2, like new fans, than there were in season 1, because a lot of people I knew that watched it picked up in season 2. And so, and we didn't even get El Rey during season 1 at my house, but we were able to get it replayed on Telemundo on Sundays. So we saw the Spanish version. And so we didn't know who could speak English and who couldn't on the show. It was a different product for us. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting how the, whole thing worked, and then the second season people were into it. That hiatus after the second season though killed it. And then I didn't even see all of the fourth season until way after it aired, because it was so long after. I just kind of gave up on it. It was great stuff, but I'd kind of given up on it already. And
that, I think that was the big takeaway there, is people had given up on it.
Yeah.
Like, even hearing the stories that they were telling during this episode, it sounds like even a large amount of the cast and production staff had given up on it by season 4.
Yeah.
I mean, they won't admit it, of course. You know what I'm saying, though.
Yeah. Well, and they started bringing in a lot of different people, and I mean, for however people felt about it, it really changed Lucha Underground. Season 1, and especially season 2, and even early season 3 were cannot miss programming for me. I made sure I was home to see it every week.
Destination television, absolutely.
But then after that kind of, I've got to see it, I cannot miss it, that kind of went away too. And I don't think it was just the hiatus. And so I thought they kind of mentioned that and talked about that too, and alluded to it, I guess.
Yeah, and they talked about some of the challenges with storytelling, and I think they go more into this a little bit in part 2, but just how some of the storytelling didn't quite make sense. And even though, and I love that there was a whole conversation too about this kind of American arrogance about the, how Lucha Libre is viewed, and, how there are a lot of fans, American fans, who, don't quite understand, or even sometimes can look down on Lucha Libre because it's not presented in the same form as would. And so, Conan did, I think, a great job of explaining, just more of what Lucha Libre can absolutely tell stories, and they do it kind of in more subtle ways, but it's really what you do in the ring, and that athleticism and the high flying and the fast spots. And that is really what, more in the traditional Mexican and Latino culture too. It's just viewed as, the spot fest of entertainment. And that itself has grown in the US. We've seen a way bigger fan base for that as well. And I think Lucha Underground was a way to kind of add more dramatic storytelling to it, but it also will always have that telenovela feel. And so I think
I loved, but
I did too. That was one of my favorite elements of the show, was the feel was just so different. But they also touched on what I thought was also the biggest fail. The failure to merchandise was like,
oh my God. Hearing
even TV shows do that.
Hearing him say he spent $65 in 4 years.
Yeah.
Sounds
about right to me. That's about what I spent, I think. On official merchandise.
Yeah, he was there at the shows, though.
Yeah.
Right? That's just crazy. There was a very definite subtext in this chat about how they poorly managed the business side of this, and
and the lack of house shows. Like, there's not many things that I would drive like to Omaha or St. Louis or Wichita. I live near Kansas City, so like those are quite a ways for me. But I would have gone any of those. I mean, I might have even gone to like Dallas to see Lucha Underground, and so that was really something they should have done, even if it was just a small tour, because everybody wanted that so bad during the hiatus, and the fact that they didn't do that but still had everybody tied up under contract is just. Yeah.
And again, I think it's because it was a television show first and foremost, not a wrestling promotion. But yet when you deal with wrestlers and you treat it as a promotion, and you have people under contract and all of this, then it really complicates things. I think one of the biggest things that I remember hearing too is, the fact that you had them under television contracts, not wrestling contracts. Yeah. So it was about, you had them tied to seasons, not years, and you didn't allow them to do things outside of the show. So they couldn't even make a living outside. It just, and those are things that we all knew, but getting a lot of that confirmation and insight during this show, both parts 1 and 2, I think was just amazing. That's what I really enjoy. Not only this episode, but the Masks, Mats, and Mayhem podcast, because they just do a fantastic job of breaking down, the history, the seasons, the impact, everything about Lucha Underground. And I did love, they spent like half the time giving Disco Inferno a hard time. Because that, pretty much, well, I think that's just Disco's, gimmick. Like, he does not like Lucha Libre. And we'll talk about in a second why. There's some things that have happened to him that kind of makes me understand why he doesn't like Lucha Libre. Maybe that's his thing. He's just anti-Lucha Libre, even though he's on like a podcast that's focused a lot on Lucha Libre and has lots of luchador friends. I don't know. That's what I'm just gonna make that. But anyways, it was really
Conan does talk a bit about that too, but in this segment for sure. So the fact that he is on a Lucha Libre podcast and has a bunch of luchador friends and has been in Mexico performing. So I mean, it's weird that he's anti-lucha, but it is on brand for him, and I'm okay with that.
Well, then, I mean, this is just actually a great segue into the next match of the day. It is the Lucha Society X Gauntlet Match Rumble. And we definitely had a big variety of luchadors in this match. I mean, I can kind of just run down them all real quick just because some of them were teased, but not all of them. We had Mariachi Loco, Little Cholo, Mr. Iguana, Dragon Yuki, Serpentico, Ultimo Panda, Human Tornado, Disco Inferno, Black Taurus, of minis, including Mini Pasaito and Bantito, I believe, Tyler Bateman, Laredo Kid, Adrian Quest, El Snowflake, La Máscara, Oraculo, Tiago, and Dirty Ron McDonald. That just sounds...
and two bonus luchadors that
that came out to attack Serpentico and Oraculo. Still no explanation. I was also confused, Vampiro.
I have a story on that when we're ready. So
I was gonna say, I meant to say it in the previous match. Vampiro's commentary throughout the day, I just need him to do the commentary of my life. That's why I felt like his commentary was more appropriate for just my inner thoughts of life, like Taco Bell is closing in 24 minutes and like nobody.
The only person that cares is me. That line kills me.
I don't know what's happening here. I'm so confused. Like, that's really just my inner monologue most of the time. It was a little distracting, again, because he really, I mean, that's just a style of commentary, though. Even Conan mentioned that in the Mass Mats and Mayhem, where, like, Vampiro's commentary is so erratic, but it helps just so. When he's really...
Uh-oh. We might have lost Miranda for a second here.
I think
that happens when she gets excited.
Yep. Keep up with my excitement. No, I was just gonna say that with Vampiro's commentary, though, when he's truly impressed with something, he'll let you know. And I think that happened. Yes, and I think one of the first instances of that in this match was when Mr. Iguana came out. He was very confused about Mr. Iguana, but as soon as he hit the ring, he was like, "Okay, all right, Mr. Iguana, I see you." So I can appreciate.
That was my first exposure to Mr. Iguana, and he made a big impression on me too. So when we were having that interview that we did a while back, I was constantly flashing back to all of the funny things he did in this very match. Like when he was describing, I behave like an iguana, I was thinking about him getting hit in the back of the head and twitching like an iguana in the back of the mat, like he did in this match.
Yeah. He was so entertaining. Yeah.
It was. Brendan, what are some of your other thoughts on this match while you're talking about Mr. Iguana and also, again, being there live?
So nobody knew live what was going on with the two bonus luchadors, but because I knew I accidentally asked the right question at the right time, I got it, and then later they announced it on Twitter. So Serpentico and Oraculo both had their mask designed by Pale Horse, which I believe the commentary even mentioned.
Yeah.
The two luchadors that came out were they had masks that were designed by Urban Aztec, Jesse Hernandez, and both those artists were at the event and happened to be at opposite ends of the facility through complete coincidence, I'm sure. But yeah, so it was, they were setting up an angle. Had we not had COVID, there would probably be an artist versus artist stable match at Expo Lucha, and that's
so cool.
One of the things they mentioned in the I asked in the chat room. I'm like, what would the name of those two guys? I know that I know who had them, and whoever was running Lucha Central, which again I'm pretty sure I know, but said that wasn't really the point. At that point, they were trying to build up the feud between the artists more, and then they were going to fill in the detail of who the characters were. So
okay.
Now you know the rest of the story on that. But
Interesting.
yeah, I mean, again, it was for the rest of it was kind of a nostalgia thing for me. This one, I was having more fun in the chat room, guiding other people through things like that, or talking about Mr. Iguana or other things, because this was there were a lot of people who had a lot of excitement about this match. So.
Yeah, it was amazing. The Disco Inferno spot was hilarious, where everybody they knocked him down, and everybody just took turns running up, kicking his ass, and then they kind of your turn. Then they'd run up, kick his ass. Somebody your turn, and that was amazing.
Again, he totally had that coming.
Yeah.
I loved that, and I loved that he got pinned by the three minis, the Belinito, Espantito, and Payasito. Yeah, I loved that when they and it wasn't just like 1 minute, like they Three Bears up and pinned him, It was awesome.
Oh yeah, that was and it's really like literally bring that up like almost every other episode of his class. Like it continues to pop up all the time. So it's also nice to see that point of reference.
It's nice to see it and have context now. And I also loved Mr. Iguana and Black Taurus's spot.
Oh yeah.
Do you want to be winner of this match?
Okay, you're gonna have to start over on this one. You got excited a little bit again.
Of a yeah.
Okay.
We'll edit it in post, right?
Yeah.
as in like some. Right? No.
Yeah, I think okay. I think we got you back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Try again.
So, yeah, the Black Taurus Mystery Iguana spot too. I mean, that helped solidify Monster, but he also eliminated Dragon Yuki, Human Tornado, and Ultimo Panda, the most out of anybody in the match. So yes, I think that really helped that flow.
It was so cool. Yeah, that little sequence, the hold that started it with and then it kind of ended with Disco coming out. But yeah, that was like, it was so good. I loved that. And yeah, that was amazing. And I really liked how heel, like puro rudo, that La Mascara was in the match. Like he was super rudo, and it was amazing. And
as they mentioned, he was the Mercenarios were huge at the time.
Yes,
and he was just fully engrossed in that persona through a lot of the weekend.
So good. Yeah. And Adrian Quest was really good. He had a very scary spot where he dove off the top rope and landed on his head.
Looked like it landed on his head.
Yeah. It really did.
Yes, that
Yeah.
was scary.
That was scary
and
to
luckily
watch.
he, was fine throughout the match.
Mm-hmm. And Conan kept saying, it's just adrenaline.
But
He's going to feel
ultimately,
it.
he won.
Or Vampiro, rather.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vampiro kept saying it was just adrenaline. He's going to feel it tomorrow. But it made him look intense and like unstoppable. Look, I just loved that. Just how resilient he was through the whole match. And he was smart too. He would do things like stand back and let Laredo Kid and La Mascara fight it out between themselves, let Laredo Kid pin him. And then when he was worn out from that, he struck. And then Laredo Kid hit this insane inverted Spanish fly off the top rope. Like, you have to see this. But it was great. And then he kicks out. Like, it was so good. I mean, like, it was just unreal. And easily my highlight. Like the opening match was the best pure lucha match, but this is my highlight match for the show.
This was my favorite of the show too.
Yeah, it was just so fun. Like it was just the best.
Was from Boss Fight Studio.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
No.
I was looking at my notes, and we skipped one tiny little thing. Before the Lucha Bros match, actually, they had the announcement of the cosplay winner, with which was Danny Gasha, I believe is how you'd say it. So I just with a gorgeous looking Penta costume. I just wanted to sneak that in real fast because we're about to hit the next little bump where they announce the where they announce the custom figure contest, which was another Penta costume, and that was Mad Reaper. I don't know if that's their real name, but Mad Reaper. Congratulations on winning with a glorious looking also Pentagon Junior. I really should stop using that word because AAA will probably sue me. Penta All right, I'm sorry. Carry on.
No, that's right. The next segment we had was from Boss Fight Studios. It was the Figures and Facts collectibles, updates, and reveals. And we had some very cool reveals for this segment. And you guys are going to have to help remind me of all of the reveals. I believe they mentioned that this was part of the first wave, and there'll be another one coming out shortly. But they have a Penta figure, of course, the Ray Phoenix figure, a Taya figure, and then there was a last one.
Was it Lady Maravilla?
See, I can't remember. I didn't make notes on that part of it. I can't remember if it was Lady Maravilla in this one and Juventud in Wave 2, or
I believe that's how it was, but maybe I don't remember.
Yeah,
one or the other.
So but and again, you can watch the whole thing on of course YouTube and Facebook for the full live stream. But earlier too, during the original or Kevin's spot when he talked about some of the product releases, he accessories packages that are coming out for the figurines, the figure. That also kind of got brought up again as some cool accessories that are released that you can partner well with these. But they look amazing. I really love the detail they have with her. They mentioned with her hair and her outfit. So it was just very, very cool.
Yes.
Yeah, this was the part where I wasn't taking very good notes because this is all new and I want to buy all of these toys.
Oh, me too. So bad.
So I was just watching all the pictures of these beautiful figures and the beautiful accessories, and oh my goodness, they're gonna have a Lady Maravilla figure too. Okay, I'm gonna need more space in this tiny little apartment of mine.
And Ultimo Dragon, like there hasn't been an Ultimo Dragon figure forever, and it's his classic look. And they're gonna have him in more waves in the future. Like, I'm so excited. Like, I was really excited about the Taya figure. Like, I'd love to have a Taya figure, but Ultimo Dragon, like that's the one I'm really looking forward to. And
so I already have a plan for my Ultimo Dragon because he needs 10 belts. So the figure packs that Boss Fight Studio does has a luchador pack, which comes with so I have to point out that these are blind boxes, so you're not guaranteed if you buy them as blind boxes unless you go secondary market. But you buy it if you get the luchador pack out of a blind box. It's got two luchador masks, some knee pads, and a title belt. So I'm like, right? So easy way to get my 10 belts for him right there is to get the luchador packs. I'm totally not going to go secondary market, Boss Fight Studios. Please don't think I'm going to go on eBay. I'm just going to buy like 50 of those boxes. That's my plan right now.
Yeah, it's just everything they announced was so cool.
You're already going to have AAA suing you.
Yeah. The scary thing is I'm more worried about Boss Fight getting upset with me than I am because they hooked me up with the good stuff that I need. Right? They'll take away my toys, literally. Speaking of the random packs, they also had the random luchador masks in this
those
video,
are going to be amazing.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. The Super Astro ones looked amazing. The Pentagon, Solar, who else? Conan looked amazing.
Conan, I like the Tinieblis ones too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So cool.
We haven't talked about Miranda's favorite toy yet, I can tell.
No, well, I did. I mentioned the Taya one already, but I'm having some connection issues, so that's being limited in my talking.
So it was a little cut off. Was that about the regular Taya action figure or the fashion doll?
The regular one.
Oh, okay. Because the fashion doll comes with a Prince Presley accessory, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that looks cool. Gotta have the Prince Presley accessory.
Yes. Gotta get it too. I mean, I'll get both. Let's be honest. I'm gonna get both, but I just love more of the artwork.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. And
the artwork, the sheets for the figures were incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't wait to see the finished product. The prototypes of the Pentagon or the Pentacero M and the Ray Phoenix were, even though they were just in black, they looked so good. And I can't wait to see them. And
we got, so if you're a nerd like me, you've already seen this, but the other people got insight into how they're going to do the detail by having the mast heads layered.
Yes, that was so cool.
So that you can actually I love that it does come with a warning of don't actually take off the mask because it'll look stupid underneath. But the head is a separate piece from the mask, and you could potentially take it off if you wanted to. But that just adds that nice layered detail look.
Oh, it makes it look so deluxe. Yeah, I don't even think WWE does that. I'm pretty sure that even their elites are a one-piece 3D printed head.
Yep.
And it's not the same. Yeah.
All right. So up next, we had the next match, the Mexi Bulls, Juventud Guerrero, Psychosis, and Black Taurus versus the Heart Foundation, Davey Boy Smith, Jr., Brian Pillman Jr., and Teddy Hart. So I'm just going to say this out of the way. The beginning promos of this match were
so
really
Oh
messy.
boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like don't judge Lucha Libre by just those few minutes between both.
Yeah,
Juventud and
don't
Teddy
judge
Hart
Lucha
are
Libre by Teddy
messes.
Hart, period. Don't judge wrestling by Teddy
Yeah.
Hart. Don't judge anything by Teddy Hart except Teddy
Or
Hart.
Hoovy, let's be honest. Or Hoovy, right? Like you can
Yeah,
enjoy
Yes, or
Ruby.
movie, both,
Right.
both.
Especially in
Those
Australia.
are mirror
Yeah.
image hot messes.
Yeah, I was thinking of that as we were watching that. I'm going to just jump right into that. My first impression is like, why on earth did they hand both of these guys the microphone? Like,
Oh, exactly. And why doesn't somebody take it from them? Yeah.
well, you look at the rest of the Mexi Bulls team, and there's nobody else that was going to talk. But oh my gosh, like what was said was not.
Well, and
great.
Teddy was doing a lot of very aggressive and confrontational American jingoistic kind of things. But he's a Canadian. He's from Canada.
I know. Commentary called him out on that at one point, and I loved it. Like there was no Americans in that ring, actually.
Only one, right? Brian Pillman Jr.
He's technically a Canadian now, so.
Oh, wow.
No Americans, but we went with that I'm an evil American thing, which, by the way, the live audience was way into.
Yeah, you could tell that they loved it, but it was wild as a fan. Well, especially like after the year we've had in between, that the whole Teddy Hart thing did not age well, especially for Teddy Hart. And
yes.
But yeah, the match was surprisingly good. Commentary was, a lot nicer to Teddy than I thought they needed to be. But and Pillman was the star of their team. I loved how much charisma he had, but you could tell he was still pretty green to what we've seen recently in Dark. Like he is leaps and bounds. He wasn't bad then by any means, but seeing him lately and seeing him there, you're like, oh wow. He's a lot better now.
Yeah.
Like you can tell. And it was just kind of interesting, like to see that earlier work of his, because I wasn't too familiar with his pre-AEW work. So this was exciting for me to get to see that.
Yeah, no, it was fun to see. That was the first time I got to see him live. I did not hate it, but I mean, he is so much better now. That's where I was at watching this match. Is like, wow, look at where he was at there and what he's able to do now.
And his bleached mullet was really endearing. I found it entertaining and
so good.
Like his commitment to it is really impressive, and I enjoyed that. Yeah, he just looks the part. He looks like not just a wrestler, but a pro wrestler, and he's got that look, down, and I love it. Yeah.
That's why he rocks that mullet. And I mean, he had a bonding moment up here in the Pacific Northwest where 4 Minutes of Heat, who I recently shouted out, has a fan group called the Mullet Militia, and so they all were like in a sequence together in a ring talking about mullets, and
that is so cool.
It was something to behold for sure.
If it works.
It does. It absolutely does.
Yes, and yes, you have the Mexi Bulls with the win. And again, this match with the wrestlers, luchadors involved in it. Of course, you got some, really good sequences, and of course action spilling outside of the ring. But some of that intro stuff was a little distracting for me, and
yes, for me too.
just wanted to move on.
It set a bad tone for the match in a way I didn't care for.
Yeah.
But if you looked at the match without the mic spots, it was a lot better.
Yeah, if they had, and this will be true in the next match, if they had cut to ring the bell, it would have been a much better match.
Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So next up, we got the trailer and a clip from Vampiro's documentary, Nail in the Coffin, the rise or the fallen rise of Vampiro. This particular clip was from the beginning of the documentary, showcasing Vampiro's role in the 27 Triple Mania event and kind of everything involved with that. Dusty and I were very fortunate to interview Vampiro and Michael Patz, the director of Nail in the Coffin, and we got to talk to them specifically about this as far as Michael's access to behind the scenes of Triple Mania. So, Brendan, tell us your thoughts about this particular clip and kind of the documentary in general, kind of your sense of it and Vampiro himself in that role, working behind the scenes of Triple Mania.
Oh, well, it's always fascinating to see behind the scenes, and then you see, and then you see like Vampiro, who has kind of a more unique perspective anyway. It's very eye-opening to watch this segment. The chat at this point had gone kind of dead, which was sad because I wanted to talk about that at the moment. But now that I'm so far removed from it, I'm just have seen more Vampiro past that. I have very different, but at the time, I do have a sense. I had a sense that was very exciting to see that bit from the show from behind the scenes at the Triple Mania, and I was remembering that I need to go rewatch that part because I wanna really kind of study that part of it and see what he's going through, plus what the show, the whole scene looked like backstage on one of the biggest shows. We've only had access to WrestleMania and very controlled access in that kind of area. So yeah, it
was really cool. When we had the interview with him, they told Michael basically you can do anything as long as you're not shooting people without their masks on. We don't want you doing that, but otherwise do whatever you want. And so he had that kind of access backstage.
That's fantastic.
And there's a scene where Vampiro's fighting with Jeff Jarrett, and you see Karrion Kross, Killer Kross as he was then, and you see several people backstage just as they go through, and it's so cool that like all this is going on, this microcosm of events are going on while everything's going on stage, and it was really cool to see the juxtaposition of everything, even though it was like really dramatic and kind of silly. I thought it was played more for comedy than for seriousness, but maybe that was just me, because I thought it was kind of entertaining seeing the drama behind the scenes. But yeah, like the fact that he had that kind of access is unprecedented in an event of this caliber, and just just for that alone, it's worth seeing. But my wife hasn't seen it yet. I've seen it, but I told her, I said, you need to see this. It's not a wrestling movie, really. It's kind of different, it's very poignant. And it's more about a father growing up to let go of his daughter, and also a man growing up to let go of his past. And, there was all these things involved, so poignant and fantastic. And it's really a special movie. Like, it's not a wrestling movie. It's remarkable.
It's about a man who has a very, very broken past and is trying to not put that onto his daughter. So yeah.
Yeah, his commitment and dedication.
I think Dusty's summary is very.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
just your summary of the movie is exactly that. Letting go of his daughter as she's growing up, and kind of letting go of his career as he's getting older.
Mm-hmm.
The scene where he talked about how many concussions he'd had and everything, like it was clear that with his career too, it wasn't by choice. Just like your kids grow up, you don't have any choice, and his career was leaving him behind, and he didn't really have a choice. And so the poignancy of that was really remarkable. And not just the level of access to Triple Mania, but the level of access that Vampiro gave Michael too, to like his personal life, his behind the scenes was really impressive and admirable. And yeah, I think everybody should see this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. I told people in the chat that that's what they need to do: see the movie and watch our interview.
Yes.
I didn't mention that I wasn't there, but
yeah,
I still want people to watch it. Look, some people have to work in the daytime.
Yeah.
It's okay. Yes, the interview that we did for Central Weekly with Vampiro hats, it's available on luchacentral.com, and of course your favorite podcast speaker, Google, iHeartRadio. You can find it there, and you can also find Nail in the Coffin: The Fall and Rise of Vampiro. It is streaming on demand, I believe, Amazon Prime. If you watch the stream from Expo Lucha Virtual, there's a clip of all of the platforms that it's on. So you can literally find it anywhere, but we recommend you watch this documentary. It's really insightful, not only about Vampiro, but again, the access that you get as a fan to things that you've never. And our last match of the day-ish, I'll explain that in a second. We had the Lucha Brothers and Mr. Aguila, accompanied by Amy Dumas, known as Lita, versus Brian Cage, TJP, and Jack Evans, being accompanied to the ring by Selena De La Renta. Now, this match is already pretty infamous about, something that happened outside of the ring at the very beginning of the show, or the beginning of this match, which we'll get into. Brendan as
yeah, yes, you need to have straight dope on it. Yeah.
Brendan has that. But before we get into what happened at the beginning of the match, I wanted to get your thoughts on the match of its entirety. Dusty, I'll let you go first. What were your thoughts as you were watching this match?
I loved the match. I thought the initial sequence with TJP and Pentagon was really cool. The dramatic pulling the glove offs, and that was amazing. But then when Jack Evans started to do his breakdance spot, Pentagon watched and then waited for the moment and just kicked him like a mule. And I loved it. Like that was such the psychology of that was like ideal. And there was even a great slap spot between Lita and Selena, the managers or whatever they were for the match, kind of coming out and getting involved. And I liked that. Everybody got a moment to shine in whichever way they wanted to. And I loved that you got to see something from everybody.
So Selena was involved, so it was.
Yes, Brendan. So drop the T, as they say.
Yeah. Okay. I was just going to start with that because Selena De La Renta was there. That was definitely, they were managers and not valets or any of the other things. But they were definitely there for that, and we had been wanting to see lots of Lita over the weekend, so there was definitely a nice little hope that we were going to get that slap spot or some or more. But yeah, so in the match, in the beginning of the match, you'll see during Cage's entrance, there's a big cut right after he nearly runs into a guy in the lower left hand part of the screen. There was a little bit of verbal back and forth between him and this guy. The guy was drunk and decided that he wanted to pick a fight with Cage. I have no idea why anybody would think that was what they wanted to do.
Death wish.
Like,
I'm ready to die. I'm gonna go insult Cage.
So
Why?
I don't. So they had to stop, and everything stopped then, and the guy got removed. We saw a couple of security people remove him. It looked like he had left, and then they'd finished with the intros, and the guy had made it back, and he said something. I'm only going to speculate that it was something very terrible, but it wasn't about Cage. It was about Melissa, who had just finished with the intro, and I'm pretty sure it's because drunk guy was just smart enough to know that the two of them were a couple, and he wanted to get under Cage's skin. And that's when you get the part where Cage leaps out of the ring and into the stands. And they had to remove him again.
It's a wonder he didn't leave in a hearse.
Yeah, I mean, so during the initial incident where the guy was trying to pick a fight with Cage was pretty calm and in control about it. Like, you know,
he's a pretty calm guy in general from what I've seen. But
totally fine. Like, whatever. It's a drunk guy that wants to kick my ass. It must be a day that ends in a Y, right? Like, that's just, you know. But the moment something was said to Melissa, it was over. Like, he just flew over there, and that was when everybody in that arena knew it was real. Like, this wasn't part of the show. This was yeah. So according to the Lucha Central commentary team or moderators in the chat, that guy has been banned from all future Masked Republic events as well. So
wow, yeah, they brought the hammer down. They don't mess around. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No.
But, you know, to the point that I made earlier, they could have avoided all of that, everybody needing to revisit that drama by just starting when the match began, right? Maybe clip the intros together if you want, and then just cut to the match beginning, and much better match, because it set a weird tone for it.
It did, yeah. And then they didn't ring the bell forever. Like, everybody just stood around and...
Yep. Yeah,
well, whatever it was that got Cage mad, it must have made Phoenix mad too, because he was out there ready to chop it up. He jumped out of the ring and ran too.
And then you didn't see it on that camera angle, but all the boys from the locker room came out too. Like, if that guy had thrown a punch, that was the last thing. So everybody was, once it got real, everybody was there for the real part of it, and I think that whoever was running the bell was still like afraid to start the match and get back to normal.
Although we probably wouldn't be talking so much about it if it hadn't had the intro. So maybe they're genius to leave it in. Everybody will want to see it.
I mean, you know, not everybody has somebody that was there to tell them the whole story, and that just
that's why they have our podcast, baby.
That's true. That's true. I will definitely make sure when I'm hyping this up to mention that I've got the
story. Touche.
But no, it was a great match, and you know, like, it's always exciting to see Penta get the pin and get the win for the team, and you know, like, he's just he's so cool. Like, and that's was the continuing theme kind of too through the whole show, was that Lucha Bros are so cool. You know, like, they are the greatest. And Well, and even Conan talking about his Mount Rushmore, and mentioned Lucha Bros. And
Well, and then he also mentioned that they are the face of Lucha Libre outside of Mexico right now.
They really are. That's absolutely true. Even more than Rey Mysterio, I feel, in a way.
Well, that's what that was what he was trying to say, is he's taken that mantle from him. He's still performing and he's still a legend and everybody knows Rey's face and name, but everybody who thinks right now in wrestling that thinks of Lucha Libre is thinking of the Lucha Bros for absolutely.
Yeah, they are. Because Rey Mysterio's become more of a WWE wrestler who's a luchador, but when you think of somebody from Mexico who's a Lucha Libre, people think of Pentagon and Phoenix, especially because of AEW. I am shocked at the amount of people that watch AEW or that have some kind of knowledge about it. When we, I'll bring it up once in a while, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I saw Sammy." And I'll be like, oh, and they'll know his name, like they'll remember Sammy or Pentagon and Phoenix, like people always mention them, when I bring up the Lucha Libre, if they've seen anything, they're like, oh yeah, I saw them on AEW, so they know.
Yeah, no, AEW has done a very good job of adding a new audience to wrestling. And we always talk about this on the show. I'm always glad that they're exposing Lucha Libre to more people in that way. I just wish they would put it on Dynamite more often with more actual luchadors doing luchador things and not them doing. Oh, can I? I'm going to go way back there during Conan's undressing of a whole bunch of things there. He said almost exactly word for word the same things we said about that street fight with the Lucha Bros. Like, he said he loved the match, he loved everything about it except the finish.
Yeah. So true, up to the finish. It was great. Yeah, I thought this was a great main event.
Really good points.
Like for the show.
I really liked how. Yeah, it was, and even though there's a lot of, of course, Lucha Brothers throughout this, I did like how they played up the partnership between Mr. Aguila and Lita, as far as him being a big influence in her career. That was the first time that they had been together in many, many years, since her debut. So what they said, 19 years. Since their debut in WWF, and so it was a really nice touch, I think, to have them both there. And I kind of agree with that slap spot with Selena very much. The last person you want in the ring is Lita, but if anyone's going to go toe to toe with her, it's going to be Selena De La Renta. So that was a great spot. Overall, I agree, a very fun match. And again, I know there was some news about it last year when it first came out, but for many of us seeing it for the first time, kind of it was a little distracting. But at the end, I loved just how, the Lucha Brothers and Mr. Aguila and Amy came together in the middle of the ring, and it was just a nice way to kind of wrap up this day overall. I thought that this was a great match to end the Expo Lucha virtual event, and
absolutely.
Yeah, and I think it was just a overall really fun match. And of course, this day wouldn't be complete without the Lucha Brothers. But I think overall the tone of the match, once you got into a good rhythm of it, was really fun.
No, it was a very fun match. It was definitely a thing when I saw it live too, where we all managed to get revitalized and back in the moment because it was that good of a match and that fun. And I remember just being very excited as I was heading down the hill towards the McDonald's, which is open later than the Taco Bell.
That's awesome.
Yes. Well, that is it for our coverage of the Expo Lucha virtual event. Now, there is additional content that was provided, 3 bonus hours of content, including the second part of the Masks, Mats, and Mayhem podcast with Conan. That one in particular was really great because that highlighted more just modern day perception of wrestling from Conan. I think that was a lot of fun, as far as just him talking and reading more about what's happening in WWE and AEW, asking the team from the Masks, Mat, and Mayhem podcast their thoughts on some of their favorite AAA wrestlers, on their thoughts on what would Lucha Underground look like if it came back. So absolutely must watch for sure. And 3 additional Lucha matches from Expo Lucha of just the 5 hours that we got today. Additional content that was available again through YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Out of the bonus content, what were just some of the highlights of some of the bonus content that you think our listeners and viewers should look at?
Drago and Aerostar versus Rey Oris and Septimo Dragon. Like, that was a fun match. I loved that match. Like, that was awesome. And it's the first match in the show. It's easy to catch, but it was so good.
Yeah, it's a great match. I was when I saw that they were doing it again, I actually got really excited because I remember really enjoying the heck out of this match. Although one of my biggest memories was just heckling Septimo Dragon. So mileage will vary. I do want to. I did a poor job of mentioning this. Many of these matches, I am there in the front row, so you will be able to see me heckling people. Or in a couple of the main event ones that were happening late at night, I was falling asleep, and I feel terrible about that.
But I gets tired.
Yeah, I am there, and so anybody who wants to see me for whatever weird reason, you absolutely can go back and watch these and play the game of, oh, there he is.
That's my favorite thing with the WWE Network. I look for old shows I went to, and I'm like, there I am.
For me, the second half of the Mass Match and Mayhem was the absolute winner. Like, I actually liked the second half better than the first half, and that's saying a lot because I really liked the first half. But I'm so glad that I stuck around for the bonus content to see that second half of the Mass Match and Mayhem podcast.
Agreed. I thought it was really insightful. And again, it touched more on kind of just today's topics and Conan's take on them. And I think, a lot of things that, fans agree with, but just his perspective on the modern wrestling product. So again, you can find that on the Facebook stream. It's also on YouTube. It's just an additional stream, but lots of amazing additional bonus content for you. And yeah, that wraps it up for our Expo Lucha virtual wrap up. I think we did a pretty good job of wrapping up a 5-hour show in 90 minutes. That's
amazing. Yeah. Especially since we have trouble staying at 90 minutes anyway.
And so, of course, yes, check it out. Let us know your thoughts of what you thought of Expo Lucha. And, one thing they kept reminding us fans is that the plan is Expo Lucha to return in 2021 as a live event. Still going to be in Philadelphia. So go to Expo for the 2021 event. We are all going to try our best to make it there. As long as there's going to be an event, we'll all try and make it happen. But absolutely, ticket information is available. I believe for those who did purchase tickets for this year,
your ticket just rolls over.
And they mentioned too that almost nobody almost nobody asked for a refund. They all said, no, I'll wait till next year. So
That's so cool.
yeah, that'll tell you that
The dedication of the fan
yes.
base is amazing.
That is another point that I did want to bring up, is one of the big takeaways from the weekend from watching this again was seeing all the familiar faces, and many of those were people that I saw over both years, and realizing there was something of a community that's already been built up, and knowing that we didn't get to do that this year was kind of sad, but this was a nice little reminder for me as a person who attended that there is that community, and I hope that we get to grow it and have lots of people excited at Expo Lucha in Philly this next year, because it's going to happen. I'm being positive.
Yes, we'll keep our fingers and our toes crossed. Whatever good luck that we have to put out into the universe, absolutely will. And event information for 2021. Links to the live stream of today's events are also available, and lots of just great information. Of course, you can also find all your Lucha Libre information on luchacentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre. Don't forget to follow Lucha Central on social media at Lucha Central on Facebook and Instagram, at Lucha Central. And while you're at it, why don't you follow us on social media? And that way you can just let us know how much you love the show at the hashtag Miranda. Dusty, where can our listeners find you?
I am on Instagram at Dusty Murphy, and I'm on Facebook, facebook.com/Dusty Murphy. One word.
And Brendan, where can our listeners find you?
I am 321 T-shirt guy on Instagram. I'm not really there. I'm just kind of there. Twitter is where you're going to find me, and I'm occasionally on Facebook. All three of those. It's 321 T-shirt guy. But I would love for you to keep me company on Twitter while I watch 5 hours of wrestling many weekends.
Yes. Yes. And so there you have it again. Make sure to check us out on luchacentral.com. We will be back with our weekly edition of the Lucha Central Weekly podcast for you, because that's what we do every week. Make sure you check out this week's episode that just dropped, and we give you all of the tidbits. This coming week, we're going to have some great news and topics and conversation, especially about this week's WWE draft, review of CMLL, all of the usual things, plus more, because you never know what's going to happen with Lucha Libre. It's a crazy place, but why we're here to let you know what is happening. So for Dusty Murphy on this special edition of the Lucha Central Weekly podcast, doing a wrap-up of Expo Lucha Virtual. Bye.